Good afternoon and welcome to Think Tank. What we're going to be doing this afternoon is taking some skulls, much like this, and then encasing them in resin a bit like this. And once we finish this one, the upper skull and the lower jaw will then be held in a very stable position to let people handle them. Because at the moment they're very flimsy, they're very fragile. If you're to drop or knock these, there's a very good chance we could damage those items and then nobody can enjoy them. What we're going to use in order to do this is a home resin kit. Two parts to it. First of all is the actual resin itself, and then to that I'm going to add a hardening agent, which I have here, and I'm just going to very carefully mix that into the resin like so. Very solvent based, that's why I'm wearing gloves and a lab coat. It's important to be careful. I want to do the big sample in a moment. We're actually going to do that in the fume cupboard because these are smells that you don't really want to have too much of. And what we're going to do today is we're going to finish off this beaver skull sample so that the skull and the jaw are held together, but you can still get access to the teeth and have a good feel of those. But then over in the fume cupboard I actually have a ram skull that I prepared earlier on, and it's all clamped in position and it's actually hanging in free space at the moment, and I will build the resin case up around it. So over here with our friendly beaver skull, I've already started, I've encased the lower jaw in resin just to hold that in place. I'm now going to locate the remainder of the skull on top, and now that that's ready, it's in just a nice little lunch box which will hold the resin in place. I can very gently pour that resin in on top, and the resin will just self-level all around the skull. And then once that solidifies over the next few hours, it'll form a rock hard base. There we are, like so. I'll give it a little jiggle just to encourage all the bubbles to come out. There we go, that looks pretty good to me. And now we'll just leave that, and that resin will solidify, and then we can take the whole thing out and people can enjoy it. I'll take the rest of the resin over to the fume cupboard, where you can see I've got the ram. It's clamped in place to keep it absolutely still, and then I've tied the lower jaw onto the remainder of the skull. The whole thing is floating in mid-air above this trough here, so that we get a gap between the bottom of the resin and the skull. It just adds more strength to it. And again, I'm just going to check the alignment of that. I will just very carefully pour the resin in, and as before it will just find its own level and it will fill all the little nooks and crannies in the skull and the jaw, and it really does add an incredible amount of strength to the exhibits. And then once that sets over the next few hours, we are then left with a beautiful sample. If you come in, you might be able to tell or see through the side of the case, you can see that nothing is touching the bottom of that container. And there we are. That's how you encase an object in resin to protect it. Well, pretty much that resin will last forever now. So unless somebody does something really drastic to it, these items are protected, and it means we won't have to go out and buy any more.